Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Ironheart Season 1, Episode 5. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately opening with Zelma and Riri talking about the whole conversation about, it's you're trying to handle magic with tech, and that's not how this whole thing is going to operate. She basically breaks down the whole Dormammu situation, and I never correlated or connected the whole scars and situation that Parker's going through with Caecilius. It never correlated in my head, because I did bring up Dormammu last episode, and I think it's interesting because Zelma's perspective is she's thinking this is like a Dormammu move, which I think it's interesting because I talked about that last episode of I don't know where they stand in the rankings. Like, is Mephisto even above Dormammu, or is it the other way around, or is it not really equatable in that regard? I mean, they're both like demonic entities, so I'd assume there'd be a correlation that you could put them in some form of hierarchy. But I'm wondering if that's what's going to be like the twist here, because the only reason why I keep saying Mephisto, everyone has been saying Mephisto ever since WandaVision. Obviously, that ended up becoming like the meme of is Mephisto ever going to show up? And there was the rumors about Mephisto for Ironheart being his first appearance. But it's also because apparently in the comics, the Hood is connected to Mephisto. So I'm wondering if that's where they're going to get their wires crossed, thinking this is Dormammu. I wonder, do they not know of Mephisto's existence? They know of Dormammu, but maybe they don't know about Mephisto, and maybe that's where the twist kind of comes into place. I mean, obviously, outside of just like people watching the show, but the characters in the show, like this might be an entity that they're not even aware of, that Carmitage or even Wong or Strange, none of them might not even have Mephisto on the radar type of situation. So that's what I'm curious to see if that ends up being the direction this ultimately ends up going. Obviously, Riri was still having her hesitations about it because she's like, okay, if this is some demonic god or whatever, what does it do with Parker? Parker ain't no one special. He's just a guy after commas. But then, Zelma's like, are you sure? And it's like, well, at the end of the day, Riri thinks she knows his motivations. But even then, Zelma's like, at the end of the day, he's just a puppet. Like, Dormammu's just trying to get a foot in this world. That's what he did with Caecilius, and maybe that's the same thing happening here. You're just a means to an end, and beyond that, we don't know what the grand scheme plan is, but if something demonic and evil like that is a part of it, it can't be good. I even love she kind of is like, what's the plan? Is like, eat the world? Like, oh, he's not. Well, I was about to say, I don't know if Dormammu's literally like Galactus of like, yo, I'm eating worlds. I don't, it might be more of a metaphorical eating of the world in the sense of I'm shrouding it in darkness, a perpetual darkness. That might be his thing versus Galactus legitimately eating worlds, so I don't know. Either way, the Parker squad shows up. First is the siblings. They show up to deal with Riri, and it's like, yeah, they know she's responsible for John, so they're going to try and kill her. And it does a decent enough job fending for herself. But it's like, well, she is outmatched physically because they are fighters. She's not. She's trying to get tactical with it. Typical action thing of I got to use everything around me at my disposal. But it's like, yeah, you're outmatched physically, and this ain't a fight you're going to win. So I love the whole go ahead if you're going to do it, make it clean. They're like, wow, I low key respect it. Nah, high key. And they were ready to shoot her, but it's like the shot activates the watch, which puts them in the bubble. I was like, nice. But before she could leave, Clown's got like one side arm to explode, so you can't go out that way, and Clown's on the other way, throwing explosive your way. That was I just like that sequence in particular when like she puts up like that tray to block like the shrapnel from the explosion, and she's trying to tell Clown about Rampage, and it's like, Stuart, and it's like, oh, so they don't know. That was definitely just a John and Parker thing, because they are supposed to be a family. Stuart might have been a screw up, but he's one of us. It's kind of the whole point. I also did skip over, Slug grabbing Natalie in the suit and stuff like that. So they must have already known the suits were separated. That Riri didn't have the suit with her. It's also that whole opening sequence too is sad because she's replaying that video and you see her trying to mimic Natalie's mannerisms because she's trying to be like, no, I'm going to be more like the real Natalie. That way, maybe Xavier will accept me and maybe Riri will be more accepting of me and not so quick to try and delete me again. So that was kind of actually sad, her trying to mimic like the real Natalie's mannerisms, trying to be more her, try to be more natural, more quote unquote human. So yeah, that was really kind of heartbreaking opening for the episode. I also really love the title being on like because they're at a White Castle and it's on like those little fry holders and it says like Ironheart. What had happened was, I was like, I love that. But either way, she ended up getting away from Clown, but getting chased by Slug in the truck, trying to run her over. Luckily, Nat got out the back, suited up, flipped the car. We're good until Ezekiel shows up with his modification. Obviously, the first thing that comes to my mind is kind of like a little bit of an electro-shocker situation. I actually looked it up just on Wikipedia really quickly. Obviously, he is one of the people who inherits his father's mantle as the Ironmonger. But the picture I saw was of him in an iron suit. So I guess he kind of follows his dad. Maybe that eventually could be the future of this character, if the character survives at the end of the series. But he wears a suit on top of having his powers, so maybe that's the direction this could potentially end up going in that capacity. But yeah, he's there to stop Riri. He's like, what did you do? It's like, well, Parker did what you couldn't do. He got me out and he helped upgrade me. He basically helped set me free. And it's like, I didn't want to become my father, but basically you forged me down this path. And she's like apologetic. It's like, I promise I can fix this. Just you have to let me go. And he doesn't. He proceeds to electrocute her and then proceeds to rip the suit apart. And he's just like, yeah, the irony is how much he is like his father in this moment, ripping her suit apart. He's like, yeah, when it comes to an iron freak versus, a Stain. But when the time comes, like, Ezekiel doesn't pull the trigger, metaphorically speaking, doesn't kill her, because he also wants nothing to do with being his father. He doesn't want to be his father, and especially in this moment. So it's like, right, leave, and don't let Parker know that you're still alive. Sadly, Clown sees everything. Now the question becomes, what is Clown going to do? And so I guess specifically what Riri said did stick with her to the point later on when Zeke's like, hey, yeah, I dealt with Riri. I ripped her suit. Yeah, boom, dead. And he's like, nah, like you lose believability when you don't have enough details. Where's the drama, the emotion behind the story? And then Clown like revved up the story. She's like, see, that's how you tell a story. And so Zeke believed that he now believes, but it's like Clown had his back because she does believe Riri about Parker. And so she has Slug look into it, and Slug finds out about Rampage. How he died was an OD, but it's like, yo, he wasn't a drug dude. So Clown confronts Parker in front of everybody. He's obviously getting more and more stressed out because this is the big job. This is our big move. I don't know if going after artworks was always like the next plan, because this was supposed to be the big one, but I don't know if like there was going to be steps up to it. I mean, there's definitely going to be a different means about their approach, I'm sure, but Clown kind of put him on blast, and Slug tried to be like, hey, let's calm down. It's a job coming up. We need to keep all kilter, like, because like I said, none of them knew what was what. And he's like, yeah, I've never hid anything from you guys or whatever. It's like, yeah, but you didn't put it out there out front that you murdered one of them. Stewart might have been a screw up or whatever, but still, he didn't deserve that. So he proceeds to try and choke Slug out, and the others try to stop him, and he basically fires him. It's like, we're supposed to be a family, because he throws it back in their faces of, I'm the one that found you guys. I brought you from nothing. The fact is you kind of owe me, because without me, who knows the situation, you'd be stuck in the situations you are in. You'd probably end up dead or locked up, but I'm the one that gave you new purpose. Without me, you'd be nothing. And he ostracizes himself. And I think that's supposed to be the beautiful irony to this two sides of the coins between him and Riri, where it's like Parker is isolating himself more and more, and that makes it easier for the voices to get to him, to draw, like it's playing into his darker nature. With the isolation, he's falling deeper and deeper into the darkness, whereas Riri is finding some bright spots in the grand scheme of things. So, because she's getting people beside her. But either way, when it's all said and done, Riri made her way back home and explained everything to her mom. And it's like, I wish you had come to me sooner. Like, But Riri's like, no, we just need to get out of Chicago. We have to run. Chicago's not safe for us anymore. But for her mom, it's like, you need to stop running. And she's like, this is a situation, Mom, where we should be running because I don't know what to do. I don't have an iron suit right now. And her mom makes her tell her, like, why did you make an iron suit? And it's like, and it kind of goes back to like the tech she wanted to make at MIT, tech that would make it possible for people to get help sooner and stuff like that. It all stems from the trauma, what happened to Gary and Natalie. She was like, I froze in that moment. And if I ever lost you, Mom, I don't know what I'd do. So I said I built an iron suit just because I could. It's like, it's not because I could, it's because I needed to, because I needed something to protect us. I wanted to never be in that situation again where I froze and I already lost two of the most important people to me in my life. I can't lose this third person in my life that's so important to me. So that was her need. Like, it is, and I think I even drew up the parallel. It's kind of like Tony's trauma and panic and fears after the events of Avengers led to him, eventually trying to create a suit of armor around the world. Like, that trauma and pain is what eventually, like, domino effects to where their respective paths ended up leading them. And so her mom is telling her, like, you need to stop running, not just from like all this, from yourself, because it's like wherever you go, it follows you. Whether it's MIT, whether it's being mixed up in this situation, you're always running from yourself, and you need to stop. Because once again, she hasn't processed and dealt with everything, and that trauma and pain she continues to run from lead to her in these situations that go from bad to worse over and over again, and this cycle continues until you break it. And so her mom takes her to Gary's garage, and it's like, no, like, there's it's important here, because it's like there's so much stuff that you and your dad were capable of doing here. Like, this is kind of like where you set up shop, and it makes it very important. And I hope going forward, Gary's shop ends up being kind of her main hub, because I just like Natalie being her AI, I think having this place be like your main workshop and like the emotional and familial ties to it makes it even more of a home in that regard. And so Natalie ends up showing Riri a memory of a young her and Gary, and because especially like the wrench says property of Ironhead, and I don't know if Riri legitimately didn't remember it, but I think it probably was more likely she didn't want to remember it. And I love that, like, that conversation she has with Natalie. It's like, why did you show me that? She's like, you're so focused on burying and not want to think about anything because you don't want to focus on the bad stuff. But because of that, you're blocking out the good memories too. And it's that duality of like, we kind of have a tendency to do that. Like when there's a terrible situation, or, even, I can talk about it from a relationship standpoint. When you focus all on, you don't want to think about the negative side of a relationship because that's what comes to mind. But like, you forget there's a lot of good that comes with it. And it's like, there's a lot of bad, sadly, associated with the garage because it took a lot from Riri and Ronnie. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of good that it gave them too. It gave them Gary, it gave them some good memories, and that shouldn't be forgotten. While you're trying to forget the bad, you end up forgetting the good. It's the dual side of, you kind of have to have both, because it's that human thing of sometimes things are bad, but then other times they do get better and are good. It's a cycle, and you can't block out one without like completely getting rid of the other, like in the process. So. And she apologizes to Natalie, and it's like, I'm sorry, like, how I reacted with the whole Xavier thing. Obviously, when Natalie showed up to save her, even like discounting her feelings when she's like, yo, I wasn't expecting Xavier to act that way. I am legitimately hurt, but it's like, no, you're just coded numbers and symbols. That's all. But it's like, no, you're being very dismissive. But she admits, like, no, you are like important to me. The fact is that I do like having you around. It's like, you are a glitch, but you're my glitch, which I'm like, I'm sure it's just kind of, which is kind of nice little play on words for them, because it's like, you my bitch type of thing. Like, we tight like that, but, but it's also literal because you are a glitch. She didn't mean to happen, but it happened, and ended up being kind of the best thing for her in a lot of ways, because it was a necessary journey, and along with Natalie, the AI, to get to where she is and be comfortable enough to finally kind of face a lot of what she's been running from, to stop running now. I also love finding out, and I don't know if this is true for her suit in the comics, but her suit in the show, what's going to be like her final suit, is made from a car that her and her dad were working on. Like the moment her mom found out, like, oh, you're going to be coming back to Chicago, she's like, I already like pulled it up and had it ready at just whenever you're ready. And now that car is going to be dismantled and made into her new suit. So gets the entire squad together, brings in, was it Landon, the little kid with the wagon? He was like, yo, I'm here helping you, but I'm also here to get my wagon back because you never returned it. So got him, got Natalie, got Ronnie, eventually got Zelma involved in this, because to power the suit, it's too much for what they're operating on to, like, with everything, all the add-ons she's making to the suit, there's not enough power being supplied. It drains the battery and kind of, leads to, stuff exploding and stuff. So I was like, right, we need a stronger power source. And that's where Zelma comes into place, because they want to tap into potentially the dark dimension, but it's like, yeah, you don't know what you're messing with type of thing of like, yeah, you have someone there on the magical arts, but even she's not like a master. And to be fair, even someone like Strange has screwed around and screwed up on that front, but it's like, yeah, like, can you really trust that? Even she's worried, like, I might end up like Parker. It's like, do I really want to be tapping into some demonic god thing? And it's like, well, but there is that conversation of magic comes with a price, and I'm so curious to see what the price, well, I guess ultimately the price is what ends up being paid, but we'll get to that in a bit. But either way, Xavier showed up because his headphones finally gave out, and the new headphones Riri got him. He was about to open them, and there was a letter in there. And obviously the whole Star Trek of it all, it was a Captain Kirk quote about, like, the person, essentially it was this quote that was referencing, like, Natalie being more human than you kind of give him credit for. And so Riri admits that she doesn't want to get rid of Natalie because it's like, she's like, I know it's probably weird, but it's like, it feels nice. She's like, I kind of feel like myself again a little bit, that I haven't been myself ever since Gary and Natalie died. And I feel some normalcy, like some version of myself coming back with her around. And it's like, I need her. I don't want to think about, I got her back in a way, and I don't want to ever go back to not having her again. Which, Xavier's like, I get it, I know you didn't do it intentionally. You probably should have given me a little heads up. I was a little caught off guard. I'm not fully okay with it, but at the end of the day, I see that how important she is to you, so that makes it okay. So we didn't really see him get to have any opportunities because Natalie kept looking at him, but during their montage of working and putting this all together, we didn't actually see them talk. So he's been avoiding her too. But yeah, when the time comes and they're putting the suit together, final touches, now they're adding in the more magical element to it, the power of the suit. But the problem is that the suit's core can't handle both the AI processing, because that's a lot for Natalie, especially being as hyper powerful and intelligent as she is, just being so sophisticated, and the dark magic. It's one or the other, and the price that was paid for this situation was a heavy price, and it was her losing Natalie. Now, is Natalie completely gone? Can she bring her back? Who knows? And that panicking moment where she's just like, something's not right. It's like, can you fix this? Can you stop it? As she's glitching, and Riri's trying to copy her onto the laptop, and like her last words are like, I love you, and then she disappears, and it's like, Jesus Christ. It's like, I want to believe and hope that there is a way to bring her back, because it was like, she can't lose Natalie twice. That sucks. Hopefully there's something she can do to bring her back. I just don't know what that's going to be and what that's going to look like. Maybe sadly it might be a thing of when we get Natalie back, she might not be the Natalie that went through all of this. She might kind of reset to who she kind of was at the beginning of episode 1. I mean, well, not begin, sorry, at the end of episode 1. That'd be kind of a heartbreaking thing if that ends up being the reset button for it. But it could also just be a thing of like, no, Natalie's back in full capacity. In what way, what happens to make it happen? We'll have to wait to see. But other than that, we have Zeke now leaving, and Parker, made it, it's like, hey, there's a base on the team now that Riri's going. He's like, I'm good. It's like, no, Riri initially kind of turned me down, but she eventually came to see eye to eye. You will too. I'm like, once again, last episode set up the whole, well, Parker's definitely got control of your body, so you trying to leave is going to be a moot point. So he tries to leave, and he's starting stuff with his neighbor, and he walks up on her. I was like, you're not going to hurt her. But then he looks at, I was like, oh, you're just going to do the dick thing of ripping her flowers up. No, you're just actually going to electrocute them. But Parker rolls up and is like, yeah, I control you, so let's go. And he goes after Arthur, the CEO of Artworks. Him and Ezekiel rock all the security. Doesn't seem like he went out of his way to necessarily kill anybody. When that guy initially showed up, the first guy to get shot, I was like, isn't that the guy who got shot by John, like at the beginning of last episode? And it definitely is, because even Parker's like, oh, nice seeing you again. Because it did seem like he might kind of had a limp or something. It's like, oh, you poor guy, got shot again. At least you didn't get pistol whipped this time after the fact. But poor Ezekiel's taking people down. He's like, sorry, that wasn't mean. I mean it. He's like, I'm so sorry about this. As like he super kicks a guy towards the door. And then Parker confronts Arthur. And storyline ends up being exactly what I thought. He is his dad. In fact, we find out he abandoned Parker when he was 12. It was sometime after his mom died. And it's like, dude, I did everything to get your attention. So like I couldn't get your attention otherwise. So of course I got in trouble. What else was I supposed to do? And his dad just abandoned him. He's like, right, I didn't want you. And this was kind of, I thought better to cut ties. And then the line, nothing personal, hard cut to the times Parker kept saying nothing personal. It's like, it's all a cycle. Your pain and your trauma, other people tend to be the recipients, or rather victims, of your pain and trauma that you didn't face, and you went about like dealing with it in the worst way possible. Either you took the Riri route and just kind of not necessarily denied, but buried, or you go the Parker route where it's like, I'm gonna do a lot of shenanigans and hurt people in the process to get what I want. But like all the companies he's been like acquiring are all part of Artworks' portfolio, and so it's like I've snatched up all these companies, giving me a majority share owner position, and because of that I can come in and swoop what you've got. So give it to me or you're going to die. And his dad won't back down. He's just like, look at you, look what you've done to yourself in the process. Specifically because the markings, the scars are spreading all over his face. He's like, look at what you've done to get this far, and what was it all for at the end of the day? And he did have this interesting line when he talked to Parker, and I think he was also speaking from personal experience. He's like, I get it. You think like gathering up all of this is going to fill that void inside of yourself. It's not. No matter what you do, it's never going to be enough. It's like, right. It's like, oh, I want daddy's love. And he feels like I'm going to take like what I deserve, what I believe I deserve, by any means necessary. And it's going to be like, it's his way to kind of also, it's like, I want you to live so I can show you that I've took everything from you. What you chose, work and all that, you chose that above me. Well, I'm going to be the child you abandoned that came back and stole it all from you. I'm going to be respected. The child you didn't respect will now rise to the top and be respected. But it's like, you had to take what you got. You didn't really earn it. And that's kind of like some shade his dad's throwing at him in that capacity too. But it's like, yeah, it's not going to fill that void. You're always going to want more. It's never going to be enough. And especially with whether it's Dormammu, but more likely Mephisto, feeding that ambition and that drive and that emptiness that you're trying to fill inside yourself. So, yeah, he comes out on top. So that's where things currently stand on that front. It's going to be interesting to see where all this takes us going forward into the finale, how this all concludes. Can Parker be saved, or is it too late? Is he just a ticking time bomb and there's no reversing what's all the course is taken, like there's no reversing it? Once again, can the Natalie situation be reversed? Where is this all going to stand with Riri at the end of this? Like, when you deal with Parker, you have magic on your side. Is that going to be enough to take down the Hood and his bullets, or and the dark powers that are backing him, like, which are consuming him more and more? And what kind of effects will that have on his powers? Will it go beyond just being able to bend bullets and turn invisible? We'll ultimately have to wait to see. where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. Like I said, the finale. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.